Ah, nature. Isn't it just beautiful? The expansive diversity of fauna and flora. All so unique and colorful. Did you see that? There, right there. I swear something just moved and it felt like we were being watched. Sorry. Where was I? All so unique and colorful, and every single one of them wants you dead. All while Mother Nature does her best to weaponize the water cycle. I'm sorry for this. I really am. Watcher, I hardly know it. Good? Had a little laugh, I hope? Excellent. Now please sit back and have yourself a little watch as I accurately and coherently delve into the very easy to understand RAINWORLD DLC that is the Watcher. Starting off nice and simple. After what appears to be yet another round of involuntary orphaning, a RAINWORLD staple, we take on the role of this small creature with a black body and white eyes. A real subversion of the norm. But besides that, this has the making of a classic SLUGCAT adventure. No special abilities, no greater purpose to achieve, and beginning in what at first appears to be a different region but is actually just industrial complex. Now, with any good journey through this rainy world, the first goal is to, of course, swing by our boy 5 Pebbles. This has only failed me once before. This has only failed me twice before. Not one to let dubious, festering purple rot get me down. Let's head up to the Echo within this region. Wait, that's not the iconic 19 Spades Endless Reflections I know and love. Who is this false Echo? And why are they so vulgar and childish? And kinda rude? Just tossing me back here and not even increasing my max karma? That's basically the only thing those pompous ephemeral octopi are even good for. But you can't let one bad spiritual octopus spoil the bunch, as they say. So I'll simply traverse this completely normal RAINWORLD world to further expand my sample size. And it's the same Echo again. You're not supposed to be here. Wait, what is that saying? Moving on, apparently this juvenile Echo has a gift to give, which hopefully isn't getting tossed back to that weird altar thingy. Well, that's just great. A truly generous gift. Now, what's this about activating camouflage? Oh, I see. But they do not see me. Now, speaking of not seeing, the last path to an Echo that isn't currently rotted is through this gate and through the heavily shadowed and spider-infested region of Shaded Citadel. Though surprisingly, our little creature appears to already glow due to their previous encounters. Even so, oddities aside, the same Echo is encountered yet again, still lacking the usual profound, grandiose facade of the others while gleefully recounting the many ways our little creature has met their demise in other reflections. But not so in this strand? Hold on. What? What the fuck? Where the fuck? This is not another classic SLUGCAT adventure. Welcome to where the Watcher truly begins, forcefully tossed through a portal by Hatsune Miku into some completely unknown region. Unless you're a big fan of RAINWORLD modding. Wink wink, nudge nudge. This is also only one of 3 possible regions you can get tossed out into depending on your final location choice of Echo confrontation. Flooded tracks, long abandoned train cars, and large towers caught up in a heavy downpour make up the region of torrential railways. Then you have vibrant coral, tide pools filled with aquatic life, large decaying pipes, and the moody caverns filled with aquatic death of coral caves. The last of the three is an assortment of alleyways bathed in warm sunlight, pink neon signs dotted around the place, and a dark, damp underground. The combination of tall, narrow alleys and what appears to be an abundance of AC units reminds me of the Kowloon walled city. But even the sunniest of regions isn't immune to the ever-looming threat of a water cycle on steroids. There's no escaping this iconic RAINWORLD staple, most of the time. Though that's getting ahead. We've only just entered what one might dub the gateway regions, the beginning of the Watcher's not-so-little adventure. But gateways are a thing of the past. Getting judged for your karmic alignment is no more. Everyone knows that the new hit method of transportation is throwing yourself into random, possibly unstable, rift portals, and getting tossed out into a completely different region. This is the only way to get around. But get around for what purpose? Thankfully, we got a taste of our goal already, which is continuing to seek out that peculiar echo, who can usually be found somewhere near the edges of these new regions. New regions that are incredibly diverse. You've got gems such as Outskirts 2, Puzzling Pipes Edition. SLUGCAT gets caught underwater and experiences Delta P. Somebody laced my goddamn bubbleweed, now I'm seeing sounds and tasting colors. You know, more hints of yellow than I expected. And then, whoa, did you see that? That lightning strike looked pretty close. Did you know if you count how long it takes to hear the thunder, you can estimate how close it actually was? Let's wait for the next strike and then have a little listen. It's really shocking how good these regions are. Of course, this is also due in part to the cool new creatures inhabiting these cool new regions. Some that wish to consume you, some that can be consumed, and some whose only purpose is to be the most annoying creatures to ever scuttle this earth. Sandbags given limbs, static charge, and cognitive function, which they use to cram themselves into every possible pathway I've ever hoped to travel. Have they been significantly nerfed since release? Yes, of course. But some trauma runs deep, though cracking them open is very therapeutic and filling. Now, much like base RAINWORLD, the most common creature filling up these regions is of course the cool, colorful crocodiles, with a brand new addition that comes in spades, and is kind of shaped like one too. However, this aerodynamic angular alligator skull likely explains why the classic technique of doming a lizard with a chunk of concrete to flip them over isn't very effective. I mean, rocks probably glance right off that thing. Another addition to the reptilian roster lies within the geeked out of your mind region, and is fittingly a lizard that drugs the SLUGCAT by pure proximity, with prolonged exposure leading to headaches, nausea, vomiting, hallucinations, insomnia, drowsiness, fever, and death. Don't want to deal with all that? Just cover it in a coating of non-toxic paint. Now, that is far from all the regions and creatures to be covered, but let's take a moment to focus on the task at hand, aka the echolocation. As previously mentioned, this can largely be done by simply checking the edges of a region. These encounters are usually pretty uneventful, besides the fact you get portal warp to another region every time. Sometimes the echo has you performing your little disappearing act like a court jester. Other times it's just small talk, if even that. The important thing is that each encounter grants another level of Karma 2, or commonly known as Ripple. The main point is that the more rippled you are, the more strange things you can do. For example, after the first few encounters, the little watcher gains the ability to form their own portals that randomly spit them out into another region. Congratulations on getting your portal license. Now remember to always portal warp responsibly. Repeated warping of any kind can build up fatigue. And always make sure to take your meds before getting behind the warp wheel. Unmedicated or fatigued warping can lead the warp E to unsavory locales. This used to be such a nice neighborhood. Not exactly thrilling to see such beloved regions like Outskirts and Industrial Complex overcome with this purple rot. Drainage system, on the other hand, completely deserved. Even our Echo friend doesn't enjoy being in these locations. And apparently, past a certain point, it's all just this. A rather unfortunate development. But hey, when bad warping, you're not always beamed straight to Rotville, Population U, and a million festering rot lizards. Sometimes you'll end up here instead. Where is here? Who knows? I don't. Where the actual Welcome to Outer Rim. known for its pretty green stars, sand dunes mixed with glitter, constant swirling dust storms, and the inability to leave without your meds. Explore the strange buildings, traverse the dunes, and keep going left until you hit the throne. A towering structure that's deeply intertwined with rot. The pulsing purple mass is present within all the rooms we ascend through, and at the very top is this strange rot bulb, this bulbous purple bouncy ball. This is not our problem. The Watcher is back on his all-natural herbal remedy, and there's even conveniently a room packed full of the stuff. Perfect place to warp out of here and never have to worry about this strange region ever again. After that bad trip, we're back on track, traveling through even more regions in search of that elusive giggling echo. Many of these regions sharing a similar visual aesthetic, possibly due to them originally being part of one big modded region dubbed Aether Ridge. So I thought it fitting to cover them as a collective, starting with Aether Ridge. Frigid winds blowing this poor little slugcat to and fro in industrial exteriors, scavengers skulking about within chilly metal interiors, and pools of water so salty they give a competitive League of Legends player something else to compete against, and contact with either is equally as bad for your health. This is also the region you're likely to first encounter Big Moth. This is now the second video in a row I've featured a big moth, but this time it's not a cute, fluffy moth gal, though both possibly still have an interest in your blood. Moving right along to slightly less salty water but in greater abundance is salination. Do you like swimming? What about drowning? Because if so, this region is for you. Just kidding. The abundance of bubbleweed throughout this region means the water isn't actually much of a problem. The problem is what's in the water. And what's in the water is nightmare fish straight from the deepest, darkest depths of the Mariana Trench. Who thought this was okay? An even better question is why can this aquatic creature feature that's built like a 2025 Honda Odyssey follow me through these tiny tunnels? But at least you're relatively safe outside of the water as there's only a couple of lizards and... oh no. Please no. After getting soaked to the bone, it's time to dry off and warm up in the heat ducts. This region has everything you could ever want to prep your slugcat in whatever way you desire, whether that be steamed, broiled, air-fried, or even microwaved. It's also home to these oversized worms. They're relatively harmless and full of tasty treats. That is until they're possessed by the reincarnated spirit of James Watt, who proceeds to give you a showcase of his famous doohickey. Next up, cold storage, which is, oh dear, a region succumbing to the rot, lizards in cages, stuffed into test tubes and piled up at the bottom of a pit, with those that remain free already heavily infested. It sends a chill down the spine. What purpose could this place have once served? Also, whichever mapper made this shelter trap, count your cycles, you son of a bitch. Oh boy, I can't wait to find out what cool and exciting new location the portal at the bottom of this region leads to. Now, here's a region that'll send a chill down your entire body, because it's cold and snowy. The surface brings back the temperature mechanic from the Saints campaign, meaning you'll freeze to death due to the oncoming blizzard if you're not careful. That is, if the newly added Blizzard Lizard doesn't kill you with its special Mega Death Ice Beam first. Also, it deflects projectiles with just its cold aura alone. This is a Pokemon. Another feature brought over from Downpour is that some of these regions closely resemble others, just in a slightly different time. Like how the surface has areas from both Aether Ridge and heat ducts, just in a state of decay. 3. Release date currently unknown. The same can be said for Fetid Glen, resembling salination. You might not see it at first, but the flooded tunnels stuffed full of mecha murderfish make it easier to compare. At some point during your game of Echo Hide-and-Seek, you'll end up within the region known as Shattered Terrace, where what appear to be fragments of machinery, rocks, and other stone structures float within some ethereal space. There's also a concerning amount of spiders. Eventually, we hear that familiar giggling, but strangely, our Echo friend doesn't seem completely present, and a later vision reveals that we lack the minimum ripple required. We are rippleless, not ripped enough. And you know what that means? It's more echo hunting through even more regions. I'm barely halfway done. Dear God, after the chilly regions of Aether Ridge and its surgically separated offshoots, let's take a trip to somewhere with a bit more warmth and less water. Actually, no water, because it's a hot and dry desert, complete with strange ruins buried beneath the sand that are crawling with centipedes and those silly steam worms. And also scavengers with peculiar masks who can utilize their karmic alignment to create a protective barrier. And these blind ones see with echolocation. They also gave the blind ones boomerangs. Thankfully, I always remain in the good graces of scavengers, because fighting these chakra-wielding primates would probably suck. Keeping up with the dry, dusty theme is the Badlands. Its defining region characteristic is the plague of locusts. You will be swarmed and consumed for even thinking about walking out in the open. Not even your cloaking shroud can hide you from God's wrath. However, coating yourself in mud works just fine, as does utilizing the brand new paint bombs, which you can either get through bartering or other methods. If all else fails, simply entice the brand new silly skinks to repeatedly lick you with their tongues to cover you with colorful purple spit. I know that may sound a bit weird, but it's also incredibly inconvenient. Also, the skinks can burrow through the sand. Very cool. Something else burrowed into the sand are these tasty sandworms. Just gotta sneak up on them first. Oh look, here's one right here. Oh, what the fuck? We've got pink, the region. Two twin spires that stretch up into the vibrant pink sky with sparkly gem trees and grapple worms plenty. Stuck on one spire and not sure how to get to the other? Just hitch a ride on one of these floating sky whales. It's like the reindeer, but less mind-numbingly stupid. Not by much, but less. So just grab those whiskers and fly that sky whale right on over to the other twin spire. Don't say it, don't say it, don't say it. Too much color? Don't worry, we'll tone down the saturation and take a trip to Desolate Tract. True to its name, this drab and dull region is nearly devoid of color, with the empty rooms and repeated architecture making one feel like they're traversing through some gloomy megastructure or testing facility, with the only pops of color being the creatures within. The vibes below aren't much better either, as on the floor of this region roams these things. They might look strange, but they're much worse when they're purple. Speaking of colors, from the studio that brought you pink comes green, a region filled with pillars and green water that rises and falls, requiring proper timing in order to traverse many areas. And there's a lot of kelp, green carnivorous kelp to be exact. And these big green melons that can be dislodged with enough force, then eaten, assuming you survive the process. Now here's this exact same region, but fucked up. There's snakes in the mud, locusts in the sky, and these freaky frogs hopping around that'll suck all the nutrients and poison right out of ya, or out of whatever you throw them at. We also see these sky whales once more, though just a bit more filthy looking, acting as convenient cover from the locusts when they're not too busy fusing with the nearest wall, or whatever the hell this is. Another stretch of locusts. Better patiently wait for my uber whale to roll around and... oh. Nearing the end here, we've got Silent Hill. Get it? 'Cause of the fog? Shrouded Stacks is stacks of shipping containers shrouded in fog. You're welcome for that in-depth analysis. Also present are these living potato sacks that are the baby grubs of the big fluffy moths, whom they are very protective of. Which is too bad. Surprise adoption time. Let's step away from one spooky horror game staple into another, having everything be rusty as hell. Rusted Rex is a really good region. However, the mere concept of existing here makes me feel like I need a tetanus shot. Just imagine going here and taking your shoes off and pulling those socks off and having your feet out and being barefoot and walking around to let those dogs breathe. What? Coming up on the last region and creatures to cover, we've got the funny drill crab. It's actually been present throughout many of these regions. A creature that is as tall as it is pathetic, hiding away in its incredibly dangerous drill shell when feeling threatened. The final region is actually one of my favorites. On the surface, it's simply sandy dunes crawling with drill crabs, but down below is where it really shines, with seabed-like visuals and strange floating bubbles giving the illusion of being underwater. A prime location for the much larger taller crabs, all of whom are moving in a single direction, as if on some sort of migration path. And with that, We've done it. Every single region, and it only took us... Well, on the bright side, you don't actually need to find our Echo friend within every region. Past a certain point, they simply reduce your minimum ripple, until it's always maxed out. Plus, there is some funny dialogue to go along with these encounters. Speaking of ripple, obtaining enough eventually evolves our little cloaking ability into full-blown shifting of one's dimensional plane, transporting the little watcher into ripple space, inhabited only by these entities dubbed Ripple Spawn, the larger of which actually pose a threat. Kinda feels like the opening section of a Spores game. This newfound ability uncovers secrets found only within Ripple space, like these warp portals that all lead to a region known as Damon, which is just about the only thing we do know about it, and the fact it seems concerningly alive in some ways. Most noteworthy is this room with 3 pillars, which seem to correspond to 3 different, stories of some kind. The child forsaken to time, the lantern in the dusk, and the crown upon the thorn. Cryptic stuff. The other purpose of this place is 2 warp portals. One that leads back to Outer Rim, no thank you, and another that leads to Shattered Terrace. Quite convenient, as the other use for this newfound ripple ability is revealing our Echo friend, who politely takes us to yet another unknown region. One where we can truly live out the classic RAINWORLD fantasy of being a rat in the New York City sewer system. We've downgraded from the subway. Now, RAINWORLD is no stranger to mostly modern-looking architecture, but these appear significantly less decayed than usual. That, along with the odd noises and strange shadows coming down through the sewer grates as we feast upon the rats, is rather peculiar. The source of these things is sort of revealed upon reaching what appears to be a shop of some kind, with masks, pearls, and other knickknacks adorning the walls and filling the shelves. What we see here is a literal window into a world unknown, inhabited by these towering figures with oddly shaped heads, or masks, whose identity is likely that of the benefactors, the ones who created the iterators, who constructed the now crumbling and decaying regions we traverse. Could ancient urban be yet another trickery of time brought about by the ripple, or some distorted remnant of what once was? What becomes clear after pressing onwards is that this is where the Echo wants us to be. A child's bedroom, a simple bed, a chest that might have once held the toys the Echo speaks fondly of, a place of safety and warmth, but one they clearly had to leave, for something they can no longer bring themselves to face, at least not alone. Pushing onwards past the stunning views of this vast city, through the flocks of these pigeon-like moths that fill these gray skies, past murals we've seen many times before, lies a massive chamber, candles illuminating what appears to be rows of strange coffins, and at its center, the Echo hovers over a pool of golden, glowing void fluid, the bath, where one would be dissolved and freed from the cycle that binds them. Yet while they too drain through these grates, much in the same way as their mothers, fathers, and creche mates, at the same time, they didn't. They remained, trapped between 2 planes, a remnant, an Echo, alone, afraid, seeking out any who would remember them, any who would notice their absence among them. But there is none. None but the echoes and strays. None but their shadow. And so they find the strength to shed their fear, to abandon the eternal waiting room in which they reside, to step through the white door and accept what is next. They give thanks, and then they're gone. The Echo, known as Spinning Top, is no more. The child no longer forsaken to time. While their journey has finally come to a close, that of the Watchers is far from over, yet it wouldn't hurt to stop and play. To remember, to take notice of their absence. And now comes the time to address what has slowly been festering and growing in the background during the journey thus far, corrupting the regions we've been traversing, infecting the inhabitants and leaving them deformed. Somehow, the purple rot has seemingly expanded its reach, possibly, just maybe, due to the fact we've been tearing holes into space itself with reckless abandon to act as warp portals between regions. As for finding out where this rot is stemming from, we'll need to return to a region of falling stars. A region that has gotten, ever so slightly, more infested. Ascending the throne once more, fragmented speech seems to directly fill our minds, or reverberate from the walls, as if something has awakened, as if the very rot that surrounds us has gained a voice. A process we can further along, either on accident or on purpose, by spreading the rot from regions where it is to regions where it isn't. Further rotting leads to hearing the voice once more, and the rot bulb is even more so rotund. There's also multiple rooms within the throne that are full of that karmic herb, allowing for very efficient rot spreading, and eventually, it's no longer just a voice. From the rotting bulb has blossomed a beautiful imitation, a homegrown iterator formed from rot, and the concepts it's consumed. A newborn entity to sit atop the throne. The prince. Quite friendly as well. I mean, sure, there's the whole expand my kingdom till all is one thingy, but God forbid a festering mass of rot given sentience has a hobby. When Flower Boy over here says spread my rot, I ask how far, which turns out to be very far, across space and time. So we do exactly that, corrupting more and more regions with rot while enjoying these sparse conversations with the prince, who speaks of eons, as if an unimaginable amount of time passes between our visits as they seek an end to the pattern, to make all as one. Speaking of paths closing and the presence of a will that opposes them. Once no region is left untouched, the rot spread to every edge, we return to the throne, and the prince has overdosed on that karmic herb, sprouting from every inch. When all is one, an affliction to one is to all. The once rotted regions now bloom with fields of golden flowers, and all that's left, silent and still, is the crown upon the thorn. After all that, I'm sure there's a very important question on your mind. Why the hell are your eyes that color? That's a very astute observation. You see, while I was busy spreading the rot, and even back when I was playing Echo Hide and Seek, I sometimes noticed my finely crafted tears in space and time closed up with a strange golden glow, and also these peculiar threads that are only visible within ripple space. Following these threads led me to what I can only describe as a massive gilded worm on a string, which proceeded to ask me to consider something, before immediately flashbanging me. Of course, it was only on the second encounter and consecutive flashbang that I was blessed with jaundice by the big golden snake. Not to be outdone, the third encounter is no less confusing, flashbang included of course, and now the Watcher's tail has golden feathers. But the fourth encounter, still confusing. However, the Divine Feather Duster seems satisfied. I think. Speaking of understanding and a purpose, what purpose could a little slugcat possibly have? Flashbang, by the way. Well, it might have something to do with the newfound ability to sew up the warp portals we've been using this whole time. The rot immunity and ability to purify rotted rooms is also a plus, but not the main focus here. So, with nothing else to do, time to partake in sewing the fabric of reality back together, I suppose. A task that isn't actually too difficult, due in part to the fact our random warp ability now randomly brings us to a region with a connection that still needs to be closed. Rinse and repeat a dozen or so times and things are all patched up, with a final warp leading to heaven, or something. I don't know, man, I was already lost 20 warps ago. We get our final face-to-face encounter with the Weaver, where it kinda just opens up its big old peepers and stares us down before disappearing once more. Didn't show it here, but I'm just gonna go ahead and assume we got flashbanged one last time. So, that was it. Our last encounter with what is assumedly the Lantern in the Dusk. We started this journey alone, afraid, seeking out familiarity within unknown regions. Then we took those regions and changed them, corrupting them for the benefit of one, and possibly all, before finally mending the cracks spread throughout now familiar regions under the guidance of another. The unwitting mistakes of a forgotten child, the foolish ambitions of a newborn prince, the skillful weaving of a godlike entity. These three all had a purpose, an ending, But all three were merely a part of the Watcher's journey towards their own end. One last trip through Damon, to the three prophetic pillars, to regions once familiar, traversed so long ago they're nearly forgotten, to a bedroom filled with toys whose occupant has since passed on, to a region of falling stars, watched by a prince atop their towering throne, a gift given, not unlike one they would give, not so different from those they imitate, after all, to an endless shimmering plain with golden feathers drifting down and a pleasant chime echoing throughout, a reminder of them, to a lush, vibrant jungle, beautiful but empty, a vast expanse, and a tall tree. What once could have been a home, a place of rest long since left, to three monoliths floating in a vast void, not unlike the one seen in Damon, spheres circling around them like rings. But one seems wrong, disorganized. The unnecessary connections are severed and snapped. Through some unknown power within this monolith, the disrupted spheres are realigned, and we find ourselves presented with a familiar descent. The final step, a place where many journeys have come to an end. As we descend through the depths, accompanied by the void and ripple spawns swimming side by side, the fractured reflections of the Watcher watching through the cracks and seams, it gives time to take in all that we've done, the encounters we've had, and the many, many regions we've traversed. Some better than others, but nonetheless all still impressive. But the journey is behind us now, as we take a dip into the void sea, swimming down, yet there's nothing, just bright lights swarming in the distance, and no strange void worm is here to greet us. The Watcher just keeps swimming, and changing, stretching, distorting, body parts growing longer, growing in number, until finally something different swims through the depths. But is it something new, or merely what was always meant to reside this deep down? I suppose that's up to your interpretation, as it always is. And that's not quite it. After finding all the echo, singular, spreading all the rot, and closing all the rifts, perhaps you'd enjoy seeking out all the funny lore marbles and bringing them back to the machine to learn more about the lore, or become even more confused. There's also finding all the trapped void spawn within Outer Rim and following this peculiar void spider to have an encounter with the Giga Void spawn. But that aside, congratulations! You've made it to the end of a video that was long overdue. I'd like to thank you for taking time out of your day to enjoy whatever this was, to thank the developers for putting together a fantastic DLC that I fully understand, and of course to thank my lovely patrons for supporting me. With an extra special thanks to Rhodey, Mir Loon, Yuval, Michael Bradley, EB Sprite, Blue Stop Sign, and Levok T. Skelliman. They get early access to these videos, along with exclusive clips, updates, polls, and getting their name read out here at the end. If any of that piques your interest, or you'd simply just like to support me making these stupid videos, consider joining. And if nothing else, like and subscribe. Until next time.